Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canadian Highlander Summer Power Rankings video, as rated by us at LJT MTG. I'm Jer here with Trent. Uh,
Hello.
yeah, how are you doing today, Trent?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. I'm excited for this.
Awesome. Quick note: if you enjoy videos like this and our content in general, consider liking the video, commenting, subscribing. We at least read all your comments. We respond to a good majority too. We love talking about Highlander, so yeah, it really helps us out if you can consider doing that. And without further ado, we'll get on with the video. Um, so the general approach we've taken to this video is each of us in the dark. We didn't collaborate or anything. Made our own top 8 rankings. We created a weighted point scale to apply to each of our lists. We didn't exactly decide upon a unilateral rubric or parameters to create our list. It was just what decks do we feel are the best, very very vibes based. We smushed a couple decks together. Like, you'll notice Recall Control is one deck. We didn't go Esper red, Jeskai black, Grixis white nonsense. It's all one deck. They're functionally the same thing. Fight me in the comments if you disagree.
Yeah.
Um, so that was our general approach, and then we scored the list based on our weighted points, and thus the list was born. A little more scientific than the last one, which was just Trent and I sat down and were like, yeah, this deck's good.
Complete vibe space. The last one
Yeah,
for sure.
so a little bit more analytical this time around. Yeah. First, we have a couple honorable mentions. These are decks that one person had on their list that didn't quite make the cut. Blue White Tempo, something near and dear to Liam's heart. Uh, he feels it's, and I mean, we mostly agree, it's a pretty good choice if your meta is pretty combo heavy. Notably, this is a white based deck playing a lot of hate bears and plays some of the blue interaction, but it's not a heavy blue deck by any means. Um, Liam once again feels like the best way to attack combos with hate bears, and white is the best way to do that, and blue gets you some good cards. I had Paradox Academy on my list. I feel like it's one of the better density based combo decks. And if you decide that a density based combo deck is good into your meta, there's like a bunch of slower interactive decks. Paradox Academy is usually pretty good into those metas. Do you want to talk to us about Reanimator and Slotrent?
Yeah, I won't divulge too much about Reanimator, except for that I think relative to the other decks on the list when I made it, I felt like Reanimator was well positioned there. And then for Simic Slot, I don't think I was the person that had it on my list, but um, it uh, I I've been playing a lot of a similar deck, Scape Shift, and the power level is there. Like you get a lot of tools in blue and green, especially in the last couple of years. Uh, so I think it's definitely worth the honor roll mention, although not cracking into the top 8.
Yeah. And without further ado, we'll tuck into the list. Spoiler alert: there's actually 9 decks on our top 8 list because there was a tie for eighth, and in ninth place we have Time Vault. Uh, this is pretty much the prototypical A plus B combo deck in the format. Time Vault is still a quadrillion points, and for good reason. Um, when do you think is the best time to play Time Vault, Trent?
Um, I'd say the best time to play Time Vault is when people are sleeping on artifact interaction. Um, Time Vault got has been getting a little more hurt in the last, like, say 5-ish years of printings, because Wizards has been printing things like March of Otherworldly, like Prismatic Ending, a lot of really flexible removal spells. I think Wizards has figured out that like giving flexibility to removal spells is really appealing and enticing to players. And especially in Highlander, where we don't have sideboards, we only get one of each card. Having that flexibility can be really, really enticing. But you do actually lose power level in a lot of those cases. Like a lot of the cases, you're really taking you might be taking a hit in power level for that flexibility, etc. So I think Time Vault is definitely a spot where you want to be when people are sleeping on artifact hate specifically. Um, or if the meta is a little more fair, I actually think Time Vault has a really reasonable matchup against like a decent host of the fair decks too. It's a little slower than other combo decks generally, so I don't absolutely love it in those matchups, but it still has a lot of game too. And the thing about Time Vault that's really interesting is that there's so many different ways to build it, and so many different color combinations that if you want to attack a specific meta with Time Vault, like let's say Time Vault is your deck that you enjoy playing, you can switch from Bant to Grixis to just straight up like blue black or what have you. There's a bunch of different like ways that you can build it to attack any of your particular metagames. So that's sort of when I would play Time Vault, is when people are sleeping on artifact hate. Maybe there's a little less combo hate in general. Or your room is filled with mid-range players who again are sleeping on that type of hate.
Yeah, and I'll just add one other thing. You noted that it can be built in many different color combinations, but you can also vary how artifacty your deck is.
Mm-hmm.
You could play it as an academy deck or a workshop deck, but you can also play it as like where Time Vault and the keys are virtually your only artifacts, and you're just like a control deck outside of that. So yeah, a lot of different ways you can build it. I think we'll shout out the most popular version right now is a Bant version with a lands package, relying pretty heavily on Urza's Saga and the fair matchups. So if you're interested in Time Vault, that's where I would start currently. Moving on to our next deck, tied with Time Vault on our list in terms of points, but lost out positioning due to vibes. Wrong way. Scape Shift. You and I are both very familiar with this deck. You've got a dub with it. I've been playing it a bunch, and you stole my list, so I'll take some credit for your
Have
win.
it all.
No, you did the hard work. But yeah, you and I both feel this deck is pretty good, especially into fair decks. It feels like you have a really good chance against most of the fair decks, except for the very fastest of the aggressive decks, I would say. Similarly, into control decks, I think is maybe where this deck shines the brightest. As Mistrise Village is a very appropriate card there. Oop. We lost Trent.
Oh, I'm back. Hello?
It just stopped showing you for
Hello?
a second.
Oh,
All
there
right,
we go. Yeah,
we're
good.
got you
It's
back.
fine.
He's back, folks.
I got myself in the edit. We'll be fine.
Yeah, Mistrise Village, a really powerful tool for Scape Shift. This is one of the few decks where it's virtually always coming in untapped, and on top of that, you only really need to resolve one spell uncounterably for it to matter. This is a really good deck at A, getting to the mana point where Mistrise Village is usable, and B, casting one really powerful spell a turn that's uncounterable. Really good. Scape Shift is another really flexible deck in terms of deck building. You can build it just straight rug. You can build it 4 color no white, 4 color no black, which is the version I prefer. I've also played, you can decide how all in you are on like ramping and finding Scape Shift. You can play a really fair version. Your points are totally up to you. There's no points you absolutely have to play in the deck. Most probably have Mystical Tutor, especially if you're playing blue, but you don't even necessarily have to play blue. There's even versions without Valakut, I'll mention, that just rely on Field of Ruin. But I think the versions with Valakut are probably where you want to be.
You mean Field of the Dead?
Yeah, that one.
Just for clarity's sake. I want to add that uh, this deck is so cool because turn two Farseek or some other ramp spell. If I untap the next turn, I just feel like I'm winning. And you can also get Surveil lands now with Farseek, Nature's Lore, and 3 visits. And I actually think that's such a big deal. Like it's felt like a game changer when it comes down to like spending your whole turn to not affecting the board in any like immediate way. So yeah, and the deck's just really fun. So it definitely beats out Time Vault based on vibes, for sure.
All right, on to the next deck. The next deck we have is Lotus Breach. This is one I had on my list that I don't think either of you had, but I had it pretty high up. We'll see everyone's list later, so you can debate who had the best list down in the comments. Yeah, I think this deck is pretty solidly the third best combo deck, like all in combo deck in the format. I have well, I won't spoil the top two, but I have it pretty solidly as the third best, and I think it's very close to the other top two. I think stack based combo decks are really good in the format right now. A lot of the fair decks struggle with both the speed and finding relevant interaction, and I think this deck is so powerful and so linear and can just kind of like oops into so many different ways to win that yeah, I was surprised neither of you had it on your list. Was it something you had on your radar at all?
Yeah, definitely. And I think part of the reason I didn't include it on my list is because of some of the other decks that you alluded to. Um, but I do think that Lotus Breach is quite powerful. And honestly, my best guess as to why I left it off the list is because my local metagame, it's one of those metagames where like no matter what, people are bringing their graveyard hate. They don't care if no one's been playing any graveyard decks for 4 weeks. And so like, you play Lotus Breach and you sit there and you like, they play their land pass and you play your land and they're like Keen-Eyed Curator next turn, Scavenging Ooze pass, and then or like turn one Ghost Vacuum, turn two Keen-Eyed Curator, etc. And I felt like that was pretty hard to beat in a lot of circumstances. You definitely can do it, but uh, looking back on it though, I think my list should have included Lotus Breach. The deck is just like really solid. It uh with the presence of things like Savine's Reclamation and like if you want to use like a fair Underworld Breach or whatever, or fair-ish, like a later game Underworld Breach that doesn't necessarily win you the game but gets you to certain points, like you can just do that. And any Lotus deck, especially one that's this broke, like this powerful, um definitely has like the potential. And the part of the reason that Scapeshift is lower on the list is decks like Lotus Breach. And I think that
And same with Time Vault. Like this is just a way
mhm,
faster,
yeah.
way combo-ier version of the two decks we've seen before. Like I think this is the second fastest deck in the format.
I
I'm
agree.
I'm
Yeah, so I think
pretty
if I was
certain in
to
saying that.
I think if I was to do my list again, I would probably include Lotus Breach somewhere in my top 8 for sure.
Nice. I've converted him. All right.
It did take a lot of convincing to
No,
convert
twist your
for
rubber
Breach and
arm.
Lotus to twist my arm. Yeah.
I'll also shout out before we move on that this deck is probably the biggest reason. There's been some discourse around removing one of Intuition or Gifts Ungiven from the points list, and this deck is pretty much the sole reason why a bunch of people believe that's not a
Mm,
reasonable option to take.
yeah,
Because those
definitely.
cards, generally speaking, are pretty slow, but when you're getting Lotus and Underworld Breach as two of your three cards, it becomes much less reasonable to take those off the list. Um, you actually, yeah, your intuition pile is the three cards we have on the.
Intuition died for Lotus Breach's sins.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was dead before Lotus Breach,
Yes.
before Breach got printed, but yeah. Uh, Sixth on the list, we have the sort of prototypical creature combo deck on the list. I'll let you talk about this one because you've definitely played
Yeah,
quite a
I have
bit more than
so
I
much
have.
experience playing against Nadu, and I've said it before on the channel, but the premier Nadu pilot in the format to me is Spencer, Counselor Spencer, and we've played a lot of specifically Jeskai versus Nadu when we were preparing for the year end. But I've also been talking about Nadu a lot with him. You know, I bird his matches, if you will, at Monday Night Highlander, and Nadia's just really powerful, but also has a lot of staying power. Like, and because the deck is a 3 to 4 color creature combo deck, you have a lot of tutors for specific hate pieces if you want to run them. You have a lot of flexibility in the way that you build your deck. You know, minus like your actual combo pieces like Nomads and Core and Nadu. Um, but like it's surprising how resilient this deck is with comboing with Nadu specifically. Cards like Shifting Woodland really give this deck like that staying power. Savine's Reclamation, we saw it on the previous slide as well. It's not enough to just destroy the Nadu after it comes into play and, you know, eat your vegetables, let them have their card. Uh, you really do have to like exile this bird to get there. And if you're not playing white in this format, it can be pretty challenging to exile Nadu in any like sort of normal interaction. Like generally speaking, you have to have multiple pieces to do it, unless you're running like some of the more specific removal from, I'd say, black has the next best chance of exiling Nadu with just a single removal spell. But
There's a
yeah.
few of the red deal 4 damage for 2 that exile, but
Oh
they don't
yes.
see too much play. But I remember when we played, you were pretty impressed with those cards. So maybe they're being slept on a little.
Yeah, like if you feel like Nadu is really coming out to get you at your locals and you're playing red, like Fanged Flames, you know, cards of that ilk are definitely somewhere where you'd want to be. But again, like I've lost so many games where I Swords to Plowshares the Nadu, and then they just beat me with like Gear Hulk getting a bunch of value. Like Bright Glass Gear Hulk into Mockingjay and to get another Bright Glass Gear Hulk going, like the deck's playing Savine's Reclamation to get stuff from the graveyard. It's playing the 3 mana equipment that gets stuff from your graveyard.
Pre-war
Pre-war
formal wear.
formal wear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so if you're looking to creature combo in the format, I really do think this is the best way to put it. And it is a little bit lower on the list, again, for reasons that will be shown coming up. But this is definitely the best way to do creature combo right now. Like Nadu's just so powerful, and we saw Nadu get pointed mostly for this reason. Even though the deck itself hasn't had like a sort of overwhelming presence on the format, it's just the like you know the counselors and a lot of people that are playing with and against it just agree that it's just really powerful.
Yeah, and just a note on its matchup spread. It really wants to play against fair decks. It's like really good on
Mm-hmm.
fighting the fair access, and then just like, oh yeah, I'm not actually a fair deck. I can just dump my whole deck on the table this turn. Um, its real weakness is decks like Lotus Breach, the fast combo decks, where it's not a deck with a lot of interaction for those spell based combo decks. Has a few
Yeah, you just don't
things,
have the space to play the
but yeah, not
interaction. You can
not
play
a
some hate bearers, but you know the more hate bearers you add, the less consistent you are at your own combos. So you're making your
and if you're
good
tutoring
matchups
for
a little
stuff
worse.
like your hate bears, you're not furthering your combo game plan, so on and so forth.
Definitely,
And
but
I'll
you can
just
like spike those matchups too. Yep.
yeah, not unwinnable, just not
Definitely.
good. And I will shout out the breakfast version that I've played a bunch. That was one of the first decks I looked at the points list coming back and was like, I think there's something here. And that deck plays Nadu with Thassa's Oracle and Cephalid Illusionist. And it's just a more combo-y version that shifts your matchup spreads a bit. And that deck has also seen a bit of success. Won a couple Discord events, so on and so forth. So you can also fit it into multiple shells.
You can cook many ways with this bird.
Yeah. Nadu 3 ways. That's such a good name for the breakfast version. I'm in. I'm a genius.
We figured it out live.
Um, fifth on the list, Boros Taxes. This is a deck you've been playing recently, so I'll let you
Yeah.
take the lead on this one as well.
Uh, it's weird, but like you look at the amalgamation of cards in this deck, and like nothing really impresses me in a lot. You know what I mean? Like I look at this deck and it kind of just looks like a pile of cards. And honestly, that's what it is, and it's just really good. I don't know what else to say. Uh, it like is just basically casting threat after threat after threat. It's one of the best mana crypt decks in the format. It also gets to play lower pointed Soul Ring, which is a big deal. Um, Having moons, like is just so relevant in a lot of cases. Like, I mean, if we look at just the four decks that we've previewed right now, all of those decks lose to Blood Moon, like on turn one or two. Um, so you get this combination of like you are playing a lot of the best threats that you can in both white and red, which we know in the last 4 to 5 years have gotten really juiced with a lot of powerful cards. You know, your guts, broadside bombardiers, white plume adventurer that we have on the screen right now. So you're not. It's funny. You're not almost not even a full taxes deck anymore. Like when I think of Death and Taxes in Highlander, I think of like lists from say 4 or 5 years ago where we're playing a lot of the hate bears. I can't, what's the 3 mana flying Thalia, like I
Hushwing
remember.
Griff.
Yeah, Hushwinger. Is that anyways, we were
Oh
playing like
no,
a lot of.
Vryn's Wingmare nailed it.
Yeah,
That one.
Vrings Windmare, Hushwing Griff. Like we were playing a lot of these like really hate bear centric creatures, and the deck has fallen a little bit away from that, but you still do have taxes draws, and you have game against every deck in the format. Um, and you can adjust your deck based on your local metagame as well. Liam said that um, hate bears are the best way to beat combo. And I'd say generally speaking, I agree. Like hate bears are some of the best cards that you can have against combo decks. And if you want to load up on more hate bears, you can. If your metagame is a little more fair, you can go a little more over the top with some of these bigger white or bigger red spells. So really, the deck just kind of has game against, I'd say, basically every deck in the format. Like, yes, some of your matchups are a little worse than others, but you also have some matchups that are just so excellent. Um, and even the matchups where you have a hard time, like you can just beat them with Mana Crypt Soul Ring, or like I said, some Blood Moons, maybe a timely Hate Bear. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, still as good as ever. So that's why this deck hits our number 5 slot. It's just like it's definitely one of the best fair decks in the format. I personally had it a little higher on my list, but this is kind of where it landed between the three of us, and I think it's pretty appropriate from what I've seen playing it personally as well. It's weird. I look at hands, I open them, I'm like, this is just a pile of magic cards that I found laying on the floor, and then I just play like turn one Esper Sentinel, turn two Thalia, turn three, Fable the Mirror. I guess not Fable, but you know what I mean. Like I played turn three, like Gut or whatever, and I just win. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, this was a deck both you and Liam had a bunch higher than I did. I dragged
Hmm.
this one down. I'm not as much of a believer as you guys are, but uh yeah, this is where it ended up for us, and maybe I'll learn to respect it as time goes on.
We'll
I
see.
won't. Up next is another deck that you and I have both played a lot. Rakdos Midrange. Um, yeah, this is another deck pretty similar to Boros Taxes, slightly less good against combo, I would say, but much better against the fair decks. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, like it really depends on how you build your black red mid range deck.
Sure.
The version that you and I are playing is a lot bigger, so I think that version is definitely better against fair decks than taxes. But if you're playing a lower end version of Black Red mid range, like lower mana costs, you're not playing um, as many like 4 and 5 drops that have really heavy outsized impacts on the game. Um, then I think it's probably closer to even. But when I play Black Red mid range, I'm looking to take advantage of the fact that I think this deck is really good into the fair matchups.
Yeah. And you still have game against the combo decks as well. Like you have hand attack, you have some disruptive creatures, and you have some really really explosive draws. Like you're still playing the same high end red 3 drops that you were naming off in Boros. You're playing Gut, Bombardiers, Headliner Scarlet, Fear of Missing Out, so on and so forth. And if you have a Mox draw with those in your hand, your clock is going to be pretty quick. But you're more reliant on your fast mana starts to race the combo decks than Boros is, I think.
Yeah, I'd say as well, like you do get more fast mana starts because you get to play double Mox plus Soul Ring. There are some lists that aren't on that spread, but you and I have found both success and just through experience that we really like that point spread. Um, I think having three pieces of pointed fast mana and then one piece of non-pointed fast mana is kind of where I want to be in this deck. And I like you said, you can just win against combo with some of your fast starts, or like this deck still plays double Blood Moon, right? Like you can just Blood Moon people out. So yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about Black Red Midrange. If I'm playing a fair deck in the format, it's likely to be Black Red.
Yeah, yeah, it's my favorite fair deck in the format to play for sure.
Plus, what other deck do you get to cast Demonic Council with no Delirium? And the person's like, "What? What are you finding?" And then you get the 5 mana
Chaos
demon
Defiler,
Chaos
baby.
Defiler, and you just blow up their best permanent. So good.
Not non-land permanent, but
Oh,
if they don't
sure,
have any
sure.
real permanents, you're probably not in that bad of shape. And then it's still a 5/4 menace, so not the
Yeah,
worst.
so sick, so sick.
All right, number 3, we have Flash Hulk. I'll let you take the lead on this one too.
It's still good. Uh, Balance got pointed. That was actually good for Flash Hulk because it's contentious. I personally really didn't like balance in Flash Hulk. There are a lot of people that did, and there are a lot of Flash Hulk pilots that have been playing Flash Hulk for a while that really liked balance. I'll leave it up to you. Maybe get in the comments if you think that I'm wrong about balance being bad in Flash Hulk. I had pretty bad experiences with it. Anyways, balance got pointed. That's depending on who you talk to, that's whatever. Merchant Scroll got pointed, and that's actually a pretty big hit to Flash Hulk. That 2 mana tutor was really, really incredible. A lot of your tutors on Flash Hulk are situated on 3 mana in the mana curve, and so the 2 mana tutor would let you be a turn faster almost every time you drew it. So now Flash Hulk pilots have had to move to a point spread of Flash, and then if they want to include Merchant Scroll, they have to do Merchant Scroll plus Mystical Tutor plus Imperial Seal instead of Vampiric Tutor, which is a pretty big deal because Vamp allowing you to flexibly hold it up and get either a combo piece or get Terminus and put it on the top of your library so that you can cast it on your following draw step is pretty big deal. But all of that being said, Flash Hulk's still really good. It's still just really, really fast and consistent. Um, Flash Hulk, the name of the game with the deck is I'm going to try and win the game on turn 4.
Yep.
And it does that extremely well. It still does it really well. It has a little bit more weakness now, which I think is good. I think previous iterations of Flash Hulk before these points changes were definitely a little overtuned. They're a little too good. Um, but yeah, Flash Hulk, number 3rd on our list. It's still here. It's still really good. If you want to try a combo deck that is extremely consistent, not the fastest combo deck, but extremely consistent, and also does have some play into other matchups that other combo decks might not. You get to play Force of Will, you get to play Force of Negation. Your Teferi deck. Depending on your version, you could be playing the One Ring in like longer matchups, etc. So I would recommend giving this a shot if you're a combo player and you want to try something that's really consistent, but also really good and does actually have outside chances at having fast starts. Like they don't happen that often, but I've definitely won on turn 2 with Flash Hulk before.
Yep. Sometimes you just open up your hand and you already have Flash and Hulk in it, and you're like,
Bingo!
What a day. Uh, Up at number 2, we have what we all agreed on as the best combo deck in the format, Citadel Storm. The reason we think it is the best combo deck in the format is that it is the fastest combo deck in the format. Uh, Essentially, with this deck, you're trying to cast Tinker, like speed run Tinker, put Citadel in play, and then kind of shrug and hope that the top of your deck kills your opponent. And the way this deck is built, turns out most of the time it does.
It's pretty unlikely to lose if you tinker for Citadel on
Very,
turn
very
like
favored.
3
You
or
don't
whatever.
always win the turn it comes into play, but you're very likely to win the game once Citadel hits play, unless your opponent kills it basically immediately. And even then, if they point a spell at it, sometimes you can cast enough spells off the top in response, you still win anyways. Yeah, this deck, more interactable and susceptible to hate, I would say, if it hits play, but it makes up for that susceptibility with raw speed. And the game plan is essentially to race hate bears even hitting the battlefield. Like, this is the deck with by far the highest turn 3 or lower win percentage in the game, and that just makes it such a terrifying deck to sit across the table from.
It also has some game in ways that other combo decks don't. Like Flash Hulk can basically never beat a Resolved Blood Moon, unless you were able to get like your island and you already had Flash and you already had Hulk. Like it. Basically, the stars have to align to beat Blood Moon. But Citadel Storm, recently I was playing Boros Taxes and I played turn 1 Magus of the Moon, and I still died turn 3 because they play artifact mana. So they just played Azorius Signet, and then they were able to cast their Tinker and win the game. So I think that's a big strength of Citadel Storm, is it does have like some ways around Blood Moon, as well as it truly is a deck that basically doesn't care about your creature removal. Like Flash Hulk doesn't care about your creature removal for the most part, but there are some games where you draw your Sylvan Safekeeper, don't have the mana to play it, and you go for a Flash Hulk win. And if they remove your Sam at the correct time, you actually can't win the game. So like those types of situations just don't happen with Citadel Storm. Like your removal is actual factual dead unless it hits like planeswalkers, I guess, to kill their Teferi, or like maybe kills their Baleful Strix before they get to tinker it and it's their only artifact. Like those things just don't happen.
Also, it's a deck that doesn't necessarily need to use the graveyard too. It does sometimes. It has Yawgmoth's Will lines. But yeah, it frequently doesn't need to use the graveyard. Truly immune to creature removal. Yeah. You need very specific interaction to beat this deck.
It can also win a longer game too. Like in that same series I played, um, we played a really long game 1, and I had like Thalia out. I had like some pressure going, uh, and they just were able to overcome like what I had going on with a Yawgmoth's Will line, which is why I'm remembering this now, just as you said it. So I think that's why Citadel Storm deserves our number 2 spot, and we all agree that we think that this is the best combo deck in the format right now, mostly because of its speed, but it does like getting around the graveyard is a really big deal as well. Like it just has so much going for it. But it can also still play a longer game in a lot of situations. It does have clear, obvious weaknesses. Like, I don't know if this deck is ever really beating like a resolved Clarion Conqueror if it can't find its Sword Supply Shares.
Or Opposition Agent. That's another one that's
Mm-hmm.
like virtually impossible for it to beat. Like, it's
Definitely.
almost always casting multiple tutors a game.
But yeah, great deck.
Grafdigger's Cage, I learned, also very good. Did you know that Grafdigger's Cage doesn't let you cast spells from your library?
Yes.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's a weird
Yeah,
one, but it definitely, yeah.
interesting.
you, you
TIL.
come to LJT MTG for the weird technology. We'll give it to you.
Yeah,
Digger's Cage. It's
lights
really good
out for
against
this
this
deck.
deck. Yeah.
They're stone dead. They got nothing.
It's not even a creature that they can remove. So.
Although that being said, this deck also does have, we should mention it, also have outs to like pseudo Paradox Engine kill people. It often plays
Yeah.
Paradox Engine and the One Ring. And so also can just win the game that way, which gets around even more things. Um,
This deck is kind of like the. Do you remember when people were building like Twin plus Painter's Servant plus Time Vault
you're
combo
talking about
decks?
the premier twin key painter stone helm
Helm
vault
of
player
Obedience.
in the
Yeah.
format.
So, being the premier player of that archetype, this is kind of like that, except it's in a better deck.
Yeah, much better.
Like you get to play a bunch of different combos that all work well together
Yeah, your
instead of
plan A
just
is
like a
win
bunch
on
of A
turn
plus
3,
B.
and your plan B is like cobble something together, whereas your plan A in that deck was like cast 2 tutors and hope that your really telegraphed way to win wins the game.
My really telegraphed creature-based win wins it.
It's not
Yeah.
always creature based, but
Ah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, Citadel Storm, great
All
deck.
right. Number 1, and I'm sure most people can guess where we're going with this. Recall control. Uh so we did lump all of the flavors of recall together. We're including Esper, Jeskai, 4-color abominations. Um but mostly blue white based decks. Is that fair to say? Like blue white,
Yeah,
and
I
then
think
whatever
I would say
colors
that. Yeah.
you do not decide to play, but as long as you're playing at least one more color, it counts.
Yeah, I think if you're playing like No More Lies, you're probably a recall control deck, right?
Yeah, and interestingly, both you and Liam. Oh, slight spoilers. You're about to see it on like the next slide. But you and Liam both had this deck at 1. I had Citadel Storm at 1, and all our 1 and 2s were the same. I was just reversed of the two of you. Do you want to go over why you think this deck is better than Citadel Storm?
I think if you're looking head to head, you want to be Citadel Storm versus Recall Control, like in the matchup. But I think Recall Control into like more open fields and more open metagames is what I would pick if I was going to a tournament, which is why I beat out Citadel Storm for me. Yeah, it's possible after playing with some Citadel Storm, which I plan to be doing in the near future, that my opinion on that will change. But recall control just kind of has it all when it comes to like larger scale events for me. Like um, you the array of hands that you can keep, especially in the dark. And we talked about this in our mulliganing video, which we can link in the description. But you and I really value our decks being built when it comes to these types of mid range decks being built in a way where we are allowed to keep most hands that we see. And I think recall control decks, especially Jeskai and Esper, the 3-color versions, I found to be really, really good at keeping sevens. Um, because of the nature of Highlander, I say this a lot, but uh, all of our cards have really high variable rate based on the game that they're being played in, and recall control is really good at taking advantage of that and leveraging your cards to their maximum potential in any particular given game. So that's why recall control for me would be my choice if I was going to a bigger event. Again, I think if I played Citadel Storm a little more, it's possible that I might move it up into the first slot. And I think we all agree on at least what number 1 and number 2 are, as we can see, as we'll see in the next slide, and as you alluded to. So I don't really think there's a big gap between Citadel Storm and Recall Control either. I don't think you do as well. So yeah, you just kind of get it all with Recall Control. It's still good even after Merchant Scroll to 1. Like that didn't really impact us that heavily. Like it it did matter, but I mean the actual nuts and bolts of the deck. I think it's going to be really hard to, even if your goal was to point Recall Control out of the format without, like, say for example, banning Ancestral Recall. I actually think it'd be kind of hard to push this deck a lot lower than where it currently is. Like I think it's always going to be a pretty reasonable place to start if you want to play this sort of archetype. So yeah. What about
Yeah,
you?
I agree. And I also would not play Citadel Storm in a big event if I was going to play it. I don't like playing those types of high variance decks in big tournaments. I would play something closer to Recall Control as well. But for me, I looked at the head to head and also the other decks on the list, and I think I would rather play Citadel Storm against them
That's very
than Recall
fair.
Control for the most part. And I also think I'm much more scared sitting across from Citadel Storm than I am on sitting across from Recall Control. Like, obviously, I would rather my opponent was playing like a Bloomborough draft deck or something, but uh, yeah, I'm Citadel Storm just gives you so much less agency in the game in general.
All right,
He's back.
he's back.
All right. Uh, yeah, and so that's the reason I put Citadel Storm ahead of Recall Control is just because I was looking at these other decks on the list. Flash Hulk, I would rather be on the faster combo deck than trying to
Definitely,
interact.
definitely.
Red Black, I would 100% rather be on an uninteractive combo deck. Boros Taxes, this one you might rather be on Recall Control. Nadu, 100% combo deck. Lotus Breach, I'd rather just be on the fast combo deck. Scape Shift, fast combo for sure. Time
Mm-hmm.
Vault, kind of close, probably faster
Same
combo.
reasoning, yeah.
So like I just looked at the rest of my list and was like, I'd rather be on Citadel Storm playing against most of these decks in a one-off match. I mean, it doesn't fit my personal playstyle as well, but trying to be as objective as possible, I was like, I think Citadel Storm is better again in like a one-off match against the majority of these decks, and it's more terrifying for me to sit across from it. That being said, it loses to itself a lot more. Like
Yeah, you do
what
have fail rate. Yeah.
what you said about like you just get to play Magic with Recall Control way more often, and you get to leverage your play skill better in that deck. Not to say you can't do it in Citadel Storm, but I think anytime you're playing a fair deck, you often just have more relevant decision trees throughout the game more often.
Mm-hmm.
Citadel Storm, you're the proactive person. You're trying to enact your game plan in virtually every matchup and every game.
Yeah.
And so you don't have as many relevant decision trees. You're just trying to do your thing as fast as possible. Whereas with Recall Control, you have many more decision points throughout and especially in big tournaments throughout the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
and that's kind of why I was saying, like, after playing it, it's possible I might be bumping it up. And I did make my list before playing against it again on the weekend. So, there is some feelings here where it's possible it's supposed to be number one on my list as well. But again, the difference between the two, like they're both so good
pretty
that like
marginal, yeah.
whatever.
And
Yeah.
honestly, like any of these decks we have talked about today are like we would not bat an eye at all if they won a tournament. It's not like we're saying Time Vault is bad. Even the honorable mentions decks are decks I would consider
Mm-hmm.
bringing to large events. Like all of these decks are the best of the best decks in the format from our perspective.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
and if your deck isn't here, make sure to let us know in the comments about how bad our opinions are.
I will say this before we move on to the last slide. Um, it does feel like this year has been kind of the year of like the like B tier deck. You know what I mean? Like we've seen a lot of wins from a lot of different archetypes that are pretty interesting and really cool. So I mean, like one of the best things about Highlander is that you get to play the deck that you want to play, right? And you can make it competitive. So if your deck isn't in this top nine, you could either let us know, but you could also show us by getting some W's, and it's totally doable and manageable. We've seen a lot of different archetypes winning in the Winners Archive this year. So
I also built my literal Highlander career off winning with decks that aren't on this list. So
Seinfeld,
yeah,
anyone?
yeah, aristocrats, etc. Um, so as mentioned, here are our individual lists. You can see we were all in agreement. The top two, even up to like the top six, we were mostly in agreement. We all had largely the same top six decks on our list in some configuration. And then we had a couple sprinkled in. I thought it was kind of interesting that in the dark, I thought our lists would have varied even more, because I think the format is fairly open.
I was pretty surprised too.
Um, yeah, my biggest surprise was neither of you had Lotus Breach. What was your one like big shocker?
Um, well, I will say like, uh, when I looked at the list, I was like, blue white tempo, but but Liam isn't here to to defend himself, so we'll leave that one aside. All jokes aside, like I understand why it's there, but at the time I was like, what? And then I think we were chatting in our Discord, and Liam's like, well, it's kind of like Boros, except you play white instead of red. And
Blue
I was
instead of
and
red.
against or blue instead of red against combo, and I was like, yeah, okay, I can see that. Like I get it. And we recently played some matches on the channel with blue white tempo, and it looked pretty decent from my perspective. So, but yeah, that was my like my shocker. I don't know what Liam's was, but my guess is it was probably like Reanimator or something. Like I did put
No,
Reanimator in.
his was he was surprised I had Lotus Breach at all, and that I had it
Oh,
so high.
interesting.
He's not a
Hmm.
Lotus Breach believer. We chatted at length about this, but
A little
yeah,
behind the scenes for the channel.
yeah, those were all of our big surprises. Yeah, definitely let us know who you think had the best list. Who's the one list to rule them all, so to speak. And yeah, let us know your list down in the comments. That's something I'd love to see.
Oh yeah.
If you in the comments have a top 8 list of decks in the format, feel free to copy mine. You know that'll count as a vote for my list as the
Whoa.
best.
Well, if you want to copy a really good list, look to the left of your screen.
I don't want to say you said you would put one of my decks on your list, but
Oh wow.
um, yeah, that's our summer power rankings video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying it. Share it with your friends. Um, yeah, if you have any other video ideas for us in the comments, stuff you want to see from the channel, always let us know as well. And with that, we will see you in the next one. Have a good one.